Okay, so we talked a little bit about FDR's personal life, his first lady, and also, how he was contracted polio and was, basically wheelchair bound and so forth. Um, so that was last time. This New Deal, guys, that we're going to be talking about is Roosevelt doesn't know exactly what it's going to be. He has some ideas. He's got a lot of different advisors, the Brain Trust, right? And but it evolves over time. It's not like this 2025 plan that Kamala Harris keeps talking about, that Trump supposedly is all in on. Okay, it's not like a step-by-step plan, to destroy the country or something. You know what I mean? So it's going to evolve. Did I show you this last week? Okay, this is alphabet soup. Okay, the people that lived during this time period had to live with this. All you have to do is learn them. Okay, that's going to be your job. So, first 100 days. So up here, guys, learning intention. Students will learn about the first 100 days of the New Deal. So if a principal were, say, to walk into this room, and I'm teaching, and they come up to you and say, hey, what are you guys learning about today? The first 100 days. Okay. Now, we had in-service all day on Friday, or yesterday, while you guys were off. Okay. And it was about visual learning and feedback. Okay. So this, me talking to you like this, and you answering my questions, we call this a discussion. Okay. That's feedback. Okay. The test that I'm grading, I'm going to give you some feedback. Now, some of you may not require any feedback, then, hey, that was a really good job. You nailed it. Okay? That might be your feedback. Others, that would be more feedback. Now, describe the banking and currency crisis as it was tackled by the Roosevelt administration. Okay? So that's kind of what we're going to get into today. Guys, the banking situation was really bad. Remember, a quarter of the banks went under, yes? And people lost trust in the system. So, like, if you didn't want to put your money in the bank because you were afraid you were going to lose it, what did you do with your cash? Like, under the mattress, in the mattress, buried in the backyard, in the attic, in the freezer, cold hard cash in the freezer. Okay. Yeah, that's crazy, right? I mean, I got a little stash, I got a little stash of cash, but I don't have like $30,000 stowed away somewhere. You know what I mean? I keep, you guys keep a little stash around, you never know when you're gonna need it. Okay. All right. So the first 100 days, let's jump in, guys. Okay. Here, let me talk about this political cartoon. Okay, I told you, government's gonna go from this big to this big, this quick. Okay, so here's Harry Hopkins. He's yelling more. You got this politics. He wants more. Who are they talking about? Roosevelt. $4,800,000,000 spent. These that really need relief, it looks like it's empty. You got your congressional cooks back here brewing up $1.5 billion. This stuff's going to be expensive, okay, to expand government like this. So first things first, right off the bat, 100 days begin. Now, this 100 days business, guys, is something that political scientists use as kind of a measuring stick, a marker, okay? Because when you get a new president, oftentimes, they'll have what's called a mandate to govern. And so generally, Congress will go along with what the new president wants if, especially if it's a landslide victory. And Roosevelt won in a landslide victory over Hoover. Okay, so Congress is ready. Now, the first thing they do is not legislation, but they're going to propose an amendment. Now, you guys haven't had government yet, but there's two ways to propose an amendment, two ways to ratify an amendment. They must be ratified by the states. Okay? So the 20th Amendment is going to be called the lame duck amendment. Now, when do we hold our elections? More specific, please. The first Tuesday after the first Monday in November on even-numbered years. Yes? That's when we hold our elections. Federal elections, okay? And many state and local elections as well. Now, the president used to take office on March 4th. So you have basically November, December, January, February. Like 4 months between the, okay? That time period when you got a president that's leaving office or members of Congress that are leaving office, they're called a lame duck. Okay? Now, if the president gets reelected, there's no lame duck period. Okay? Now, Congress is going to have a lame duck period because not everybody gets reelected. So they're going to shorten this, obviously, because we have planes, trains, and automobiles now to get from wherever the president's from to Washington, D.C. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? We bring this up, 20th Amendment? It wasn't in this class? Okay, because John Adams had to get to D.C. from Boston on a horse. You know what I mean? It takes time. So Washington didn't live in the White House. Okay, when Washington was president, where was the capital? New York. And the first capital before that was where? Philadelphia. Okay, so D.C. is our third capital. All right, sorry. You guys look just like, real, like, I mean, I'm seeing an elite level of engagement, right? It's Tuesday, guys. It's not Monday. Okay? Now, all right, next. Here we go. The banks. Okay. A lot of notes? Okay, well, I do provide these for you on Canvas. You can print them off if you want. Or you can work on English. Hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do. You got a test next hour? Tomorrow. Oh, put that. All right. So, guys, Congress is ready to act. The American people want action. Action they're going to get. That's what Roosevelt says, okay? Congress is like, okay, Mr. President, what do you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? All right, we got to fix the banks. So, Congress is ready. On March 9th, this is 5 days into his presidency, Congress will pass this bill through both houses, be signed into law by the president in 1 day. How rare is that? Now, usually legislation takes months. Pass this in 1 day, and it's called the bank holiday. Now, the bank holiday has another name called the Emergency Banking Act. What's another name for the Emergency Banking Act? Billy? Bank holiday. Yeah. What's another name for the bank holiday? Okay, so they're the same thing. Kind of like that Adjusted Compensation Act in the bonus bill. It's the same thing. Okay. Now, what is this going to do? Now, this bank holiday, guys, isn't like Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's a federal holiday. The banks are closed. It's not 1 day, guys. It could be 1 day for some banks, but for other banks, it may be a week. In other banks, it may be 3 weeks. In other banks, it might be 3 months. And what this bank holiday is going to do, the Secretary of Treasury, not Mellon, but Morgenthau, okay, is going to send Treasury officials into your bank and shut you down. For the bank holiday, they're going to investigate your bank, and then they're going to reopen your bank when they see fit. Okay, you got like a kind of curious look on your face right there. Why? Why would they do that? Because they want to bring confidence back to the banks. So you can take the money you buried in your backyard, put it in a bank again. Roosevelt goes on the radio and reassures Americans what we're doing with the banks. We're going to fix the banks. Now, did Hoover ever get on the radio? Yeah, he did. Remember, October 24th, a few days before the stock market crash, he got on the radio and tried to reassure Americans not to panic. And then on Tuesday, they panicked. Yes, remember that? Okay, guys, did they call Hoover's radio addresses fireside chats? How many of you guys have heard fireside chats before? Well, Hoover did radio addresses. They didn't call them fireside. Well, why are they calling Roosevelt fireside chat? Really? Because they like him. Okay? Now, this is a rich guy from New York that went to Harvard. Roosevelt. Born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Who was Hoover? Hoover was an orphan as a child, put himself through school, became a millionaire, self-made, not by inheritance. They like FDR so much. I don't know. Now, people didn't think Roosevelt would be able to communicate with the average American. Because, he's this rich guy, Harvard guy. They couldn't be more wrong. And this is the reason why they call them fireside chats, guys. Roosevelt was a great communicator. Okay? And, guys, we've been fortunate to have a lot of presidents that were great communicators. Do you think of any others? There's a movie in the theater right now about one of them. Yeah, Ronald Reagan. I mean, he was an actor. Dude knew how to look into a camera and give a line. Okay? He's also really good at humor. What about Barack Obama? Great communicator. Bill Clinton was a great communicator. Okay? George W. Bush, not so much. Okay? You put a camera in front of that guy, he loses 30 points of his IQ. Okay. Now you take the camera away, his IQ goes up. It's just something about that camera. Ask them all. Did I say that out loud? Oh, I don't care. Okay. Am I wrong? Okay. So fireside chats. Now, let me ask you a question. Like I said, you guys haven't had government yet. So the Treasury Department is in which branch of government? The executive branch. This is a cabinet department, right? So I know you haven't studied Article 2 of the Constitution yet. But when you do, are you going to be able to find in there a power granted to the executive branch of the U.S. government to go into private businesses, shut them down, investigate them, and only reopen them when the government says it's okay for you to reopen them? Is that a power granted to the executive branch? Because this is what we do in the Constitution, guys. We list the powers of the government. No, guys, they do not have this legal power to shut down a private bank and then reopen it only when they say fit. Now, during COVID, did they do that? They shut down gyms. They shut down churches. Okay? Here's the thing, guys. When you're in a crisis, like a depression, a pandemic, you're going to cede more power to the national government, mostly to the executive branch that enforces things. Okay? This is a story that you need to pay attention to, guys. There's a theme throughout history, not just in this country, but in other countries as well, is when you are in a crisis, government becomes way more powerful. Okay? Ask those that were detained during the Civil War without being charged with a crime by Abraham Lincoln when he suspended habeas corpus. Or during World War II, a little bit later, when this guy, Roosevelt, will round up Japanese American citizens and put them in camps without charging them with a crime, suspending habeas corpus. You understand? Rahm Emanuel, who was President Barack Obama's chief of staff, said this about a crisis: never let a good crisis go to waste. Which means take that power that's given to you and use it. Why am I telling you this? Because what you got? What you got? No? What's that? There could be another crisis right around the corner, right? And I don't want you guys to be sheep. Okay? I want you to stand up for your rights and your freedom in the Constitution. Okay? When the Constitution gets abused, that can affect our freedom. Okay? Now, listen, people don't care. They want to trust the banks again. This is a crisis. Now, you guys say I posted you some homework assignment. Yes? See that? Everybody see, run across that? Are you getting notification? Well, you can't have your phones. My bad. Okay. So I sent you a homework assignment this morning. Okay. No biggie. It's not due till Saturday night. Okay. Got lots of time. 5 questions. Okay. We're at 4 points each. You can do 1 a day and knock it out by Saturday night. Okay. Now, one of the questions is about the Supreme Court and the New Deal and Roosevelt. Now, the Supreme Court could certainly strike down this action as unconstitutional. They're going to strike down a whole bunch of stuff eventually about this New Deal. Like President Roosevelt, Congress, you don't have the power to do this. Okay? You should research that when you do the homework. Okay? There's some good questions on there. Obviously, guys, it's optional. You know how you did on the test, even without me grading it. So if you need to do that homework, you do it. If you don't need to do the homework, you don't have to. Okay? But you might want to look up the stuff I'll talk about on that. Okay. So his first of many fireside chats. Just kind of makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Okay. So how's this turn out? How's this turn out? Well, pretty good actually, because you know the banks that were in trouble, they already went under, 25% of them. And about 80% or 4/5 were in pretty good shape. The government's going to print some money and rush it to the banks so that they have some cash. And people are going to start trusting the banks again. By midsummer, 94% of the banks that had deposits were reopened. Okay, so some of them it took a long time for the government to let them reopen. And then Congress acted with the Glass-Steagall Act. Now, Glass-Steagall is simply 2 members of Congress that sponsor this legislation in Congress. Okay, sometimes the name sticks. You know, when you have the sponsors, they use that name. Not always, and actually not that often. Okay, but this creates the FDIC, or the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, that will insure your money in the bank up to $5,000 in each account, each bank. Okay. This will prevent runs on banks. So people know, like, if the bank's in trouble, the federal government's going to insure my money then. I'm not going to lose my $5,000. Okay. Now, do you guys know how much the FDIC protects your money in banks now? $250,000. Okay. So if you have the unfortunate problem of having more than $250,000 to put in the bank, first of all, you should probably be investing that and not leave it all in the bank account. Okay. But you would want to put it in separate banks if it was more than $250,000. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Listen, if that's a problem for anybody in here, see me after class and we can talk about your test score. Now, I only deal in 6 figures, so anything under that, you got no chance, so don't even try. This is going to take a lot for me to test my integrity on that, yes. Those 6 figures would cover me for 2 years of salary, and I'm out anyway. So, I'm kidding. All right, guys. We have other problems in the economy, and I mentioned this here in the success criteria. Currency crisis. Okay, we are about to see an economic scenario that is called deflation. Okay, were you good there? Are you guys good on that? You still ready? Okay, you guys heard? Everybody's heard of inflation. I mean, actually, you're living it, right? We've been living it. Deflation for the United States of America is worse than inflation. Now, inflation in moderation is a good thing for Americans. Inflation at high levels is bad for everybody. Okay, well, almost everybody, but. Okay, so this isn't always 100%, guys, but generally, when you see deflation, I'd like to color the slide. It's actually supposed to be gold, but it's about as close as I can find. But, deflation is usually followed by low demand, low prices, and low wages. Okay? So I'm really going to screw with you guys right now. Oh. Okay. We're going to do a graph. Okay? All right, so just according to the notes I had up there, right? With deflation, wages tend to go down, prices tend to go down, demand tends to go down. Now, what we know about inflation is generally the opposite, right? We know prices go up, right, during inflation. Yes? Demand generally goes up, not always, and wages generally go up. Now, inflation without wages rising sucks for the people. You know what I mean? It's one thing if wages are keeping pace with prices, that's, it's one thing. But if they're not, it's worse. Does that make sense? So if inflation's at 9%, and your wages are only going up 3%, you're falling further and further behind, which is indeed what happened in the United States over the last 3 years. Now, inflation has slowed to about 2.5%, depending on which index you're looking at. Okay, but wages have started to creep up again. Okay. Now, this is the key thing here. Okay. The value of the dollar. So I think you guys can answer this. What happens to the value of the dollar when there's inflation? It goes down. And so the opposite must be true for deflation. Correct. Okay. So my point to you guys is that this deflation is worse than inflation. You say, well, Mr. Ebright, if my dollar's worth more, how is that a bad thing? I swear I had a... Jude, what do you think? What do you think? Inflation worse than deflation? Way worse. Thanks for backing me up on that. All right. Now, the problem is you have your hard time getting your hands on these dollars. They're worth more, but it's hard to get them. That makes sense. Here's the worst part of deflation. See, in this country, we like to borrow these. Yes? We like to borrow these for our cars. We like to borrow these for our houses. We like to borrow money for all kinds of things. Food, even like you use your credit card. You like to borrow money to go to college. We like to borrow money. So most Americans owe something. Have any of your parents bought a house in the last year? Not a real good time to buy a house in the last year, has it been? Okay. Now, most of your parents, unless they're fortunate like me and they've paid off the house, if you own a house, most of your parents owe money on that house. Okay? So when I borrow 100,000 of these for a mortgage, and I start paying these back to the bank every month, yes? If there is deflation, the value of every dollar that I pay back to the bank is, first of all, it's harder to get because wages are down. The value I'm giving back to the bank is more valuable than when I borrowed it, making it more difficult for people that borrow money to pay it back. And guys, what's the biggest tragedy of the Depression? Homelessness. So you got people trying to pay back loans, you got deflation, people are in trouble. Now guys, if you borrow money and there's inflation and wages go up, every dollar that you're paying back to the bank has less value than when you borrowed it. This is good for you if you owe money. If you are the bank, it's not as good for you. Don't feel too sorry for the banks because they're charging you interest. You're going to make money. Okay. You with me? Okay. So everybody with me on this. Now, because we are in 1933 in a deflationary situation, to reverse this and to create this, what do you need to do? Okay. You end the gold standard because you need to do what? You got to print more money. But as Jude was saying, guys, we're on the gold standard. Hey, here, watch this. Gold. Okay, so every dollar is backed up by gold. Now, guys, this is kind of hard for people to get. I'm going to break this down, hopefully really simple for you. Let me show you something. Before you freak out, don't freak out, okay? These are gold coins, okay? You've got quarter eagle, half eagle, eagle, double eagle, okay? Now, we've got quite a few dudes in here. How many of you guys got any change in your pockets right now? Got some change in my pocket going jing-a-ling-a-jang, jing-a-ling-a-lang. Nobody's got change in their pocket. Now, ladies, you got like a little coin purse somewhere. Who likes carrying around coins? Now, if they were gold coins, you might want to carry them around, but they're going to be heavy because gold is heavy, yes? So people don't like carrying around gold, or coins in general. So what you could do, guys, you could take 2 double eagles and an eagle and go to the bank and get one of these. Now, this is a gold certificate. It's got Ulysses S. Grant on it. Okay, just like the $50 bill, but it says up here, gold certificate. Now, between 1882 and 1933, you could use this. Okay, and it had the same value as gold. So I could take my gold certificate into the bank and get gold coins. You with me? So the money like this is actually backed up by gold. Real gold. Now, in order for us to print more money, and if it's still going to be backed up by gold, you either need to get more gold Like, go find some gold or modify the gold standard, go off the gold standard, or both. So what the government's going to do is they're going to collect all of these coins and gold certificates. These are discontinued. If you possess these coins after 1934, it is illegal. Against the law. These are very, very rare from these dates. Okay? There was the king of Egypt was given one of these coins a long time ago. It sold at auction for $7.2 million. They sold it again. They did? How much? It was like $20. You got to turn them in. Government stockpiling gold. You got to turn in your gold certificates, and you're going to get these in exchange. At the very top of your money, it says Federal Reserve Note. Okay? Now, they're going to reduce the backing of the dollar to 59.6 cents per dollar. So a dollar will buy you 59 cents worth of gold. That's where they start. Okay. Now today, he's got the long hair in here, right here. This is pretty long right here. So I'm going to take one of these. Okay. Did you feel that? Because it didn't happen. Okay. So you take a hair this long, okay, and say it's gold. That's skin. It's a hair. Can I buy that much gold? $1. You know what gold's trading at an ounce right now? Almost 2,500, 2,700. Okay. No, you can't buy that much gold. Now, I have the shortest hair, I believe, in here. Yeah. So here. Nope, can't buy that much gold with $1. Okay. So what's backing up our dollar, our dollar today? Trust in your government and our economic system. That's what's backing up the dollar. Now, did that all make sense to you? I tried to explain that in a good way. So let's put this up. Okay. Did I do this one? Okay, let me get that down. Okay. So every dollar is still going to be backed by some amount of gold for now. Okay. So you had to turn in your gold coins. How time do we get out today? Got time for a story. So on this feedback thing, hey, what's inauguration day for the president? January what? 20th. What amendment's the lame duck amendment? 20th. Okay, that's a mnemonic device. You guys with me? Now, when we were learning about feedback yesterday and visual learning, okay, that's a 0.82. Like, okay, in a normal year, okay, so anything over 0, you're learning at a faster pace than you would in a normal year. So 0.82 means mnemonic devices really help you learn. How many of you guys use them? Mnemonic device. Okay, I use them all the time. You know, mnemonic device? I just did it. So January 20th is Inauguration Day. It became Inauguration Day because of the 20th Amendment. Now, I looked, like, they give us a whole list of different educational techniques and how much they help. Guys, this stuff right here, this is very helpful. It's called clarity, right? And then feedback is an important one. But they didn't have this one, storytelling. Like, listen, before they wrote stuff down, how did they pass history on? Storytelling, yes? I think I still have it over here somewhere. Oh, here it is. So when I was in graduate school to become get my graduate degree in education, I had to take some classes, and one of my classes, it was like an hour-long thing. I went to the Kansas Storytelling Festival. Okay, it was like some small town I've never heard of, and I don't remember what it was called. But this is like 5 years ago, maybe 4. And they brought in storytellers from all over the country. Like the one I remember most was this guy from South Carolina that wore a light blue pinstripe suit and had this awesome Southern drawl. Okay, and he was a storyteller. I mean, he just like gets you. Okay, they don't have a thing on like good storytelling. I think it's a good way to learn, especially if you're good at it. You know what another factor is? You guys trust me. You like me. You don't know yet. So if you don't like your teacher, you're not going to learn very well. I mean, if you don't think your teacher cares about you, you're not going to learn very well. So I'm just going to tell you right now, I care about all of you. Okay? I may not know you very well right now, but by the time the year's over, I'm going to know you well, and I care about all of you. I want you all to do well. Okay? Mean that. And if you ever need to talk to somebody, I'm here. You may not trust me yet, but hopefully you will. Okay? All right. So we're good. All right. This is my feedback. I'm putting into practice what I learned. All right. So people will receive these dollars. Now, you can use these dollars to pay your debts. This is called the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. All right. So they started at 59.06 cents. Now, economically, guys, this is going to do 4 important things. First, the government's going to print the money. Now, I got to stop. How does the government get the money into your hands? The government prints the money and they give it to who? Who? To the banks, big banks. They loan it to the big banks, and the big banks have to pay interest to the Federal Reserve. Okay? Then, big banks loan it to who? Small banks and you and I. Yes? And businesses. Now, what's going to encourage you to borrow more money? Lower interest rates. So you cut interest rates, guys. It's cheap money. Remember the other day, a few days ago, I was talking about, what if I borrowed $100,000 from the bank and I only had to pay 2% interest? I took that $100,000 and I invested in the stock market and made 6% on it. That's like me making free 4% on $100,000. I only got to pay the bank back 2%. People do that? You bet they do. Okay? Now, is there a risk involved with that? You bet there is. When interest rates are low, people will borrow money. Businesses will borrow money. They will expand operations. People will buy things. They'll go into debt. On purpose. So, more money to spend. Raise prices at home. Farmers need prices to go up. Remember how much prices fell? Okay, on wheat and cotton and so forth? They need prices to come up. This is a big one, guys. And the Chinese are really good at this. When the dollar loses value, it's cheaper for other countries to buy our goods. Does this make sense? You buy American goods using the dollar to buy it. The value of the dollar goes down. So if you are China and you're converting yuan, or Japanese and you're converting yen, or you're European, you're converting euro to the dollar, if the dollar's cheaper, it's cheaper to buy American products. So this would hopefully boost exports. Now, like I said, the Chinese are good at artificially deflating their currency to the point where it's overly low. And so they want more exports. So they devalue their currency. Okay? The biggest part of this, the biggest part of this for the American people is this last one. This makes it easier to pay debt. And so many Americans are in debt in this depression. Let's keep a roof over somebody's house a little longer. Now, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Dude, you got an opinion on this? Like, what else was Roosevelt going to do? Besides just wait it out like Hoover was trying to do. I mean, it's going to help people. Okay? It does take us off the gold standard. It does, put into question the value of these. Okay? Now, this goes over well with people that owe money. The banks, that kid. I was on a walk yesterday. I like to go on a walk. There's two kids playing in the front yard. I think he was kicking the soccer ball. He kicked it past him. The kid goes, goal. And he goes, that doesn't, he was running after, that doesn't count. Like he's changing the rules of the game in the middle of the game. So the banks are like, hey, the government's changing the rules. We loaned all this money out, and now the money we're going to get paid back is about half of what we loaned it out as. That's legalized robbery that the government's creating. And they're right. Now, don't feel too sorry for the banks. Again, they'll be okay. That's an honest thing. Like they are really screwing the banks on this, or anybody else that loans out money, like loan sharks and stuff. They're kind of screwing. Okay, so let me tell you a story. I got to go to this next slide, and I'm going to click on this. So this family. Oh, come on. Don't tell me this internet site's not working. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh my gosh. I want to pull up this article. I know, I'm sorry. Oh, well. I have to Google it. Go on in. Okay. Sorry. All right, let me tell you the story real quick. All right, so there's this family, and the grandpa died, and he had a safe deposit box. 7 double eagles in there. So Drew was just saying, this gold coin that sold for 7.2 million, now it's sold for 20 million. If that sold for 20 million, you had 7 of those. That's 140 million. These coins would be worth. They took them to the U.S. Mint to find out where they came from. And the U.S. Mint confiscated the coins. They went to trial to get them back. Jury said that you have a right to take these coins. Okay? This happened in 2009, 2005. They took them there for authentication. They said they had been stolen. The U.S. Mint by their grandfather. So, $140 million. Now, here's the moral of the story. If you come across one of these gold coins from your great-grandpa, do not go to the U.S. Mint. Okay? You go to Canada or Switzerland or somewhere and find somebody that you trust over there. Say, listen, I'll give you 10%. Put this up for auction for me. Just say, your grandpa from Canada gave it to me. Okay? Because they didn't, Gold Reserve Act didn't affect Canadians. Only Americans. You guys with me? I'm teaching you how to cheat the system, stick it to the man. Okay? Now, yeah, these coins are very rare. Now, they are allowed, you're allowed to have them now. Like collectors can have gold certificates and so forth, and they're very rare. If you guys ever watch Pawn Stars and stuff like that, okay? You see some of that stuff. Okay. That's my story. And that's where I'm stopping. Okay? What you got?